Hello friend! With over 5,000 items in Terraria, there's bound to be some that you've overlooked. Be it items, armors or weapons, it's difficult to keep track of them all. The 1.4 update introduced many new weapons and some are pretty overlooked. That's why I'm here to show you 5 forgotten and overlooked weapons in Terraria 1.4. This list is just my opinion and I do understand that some weapons are overlooked because they're just not that good. But some people don't even know these weapons exist, so if you know these already, then good for you. I'm Zuzucorn and I aim to entertain you, encourage you and offer you a place to call home. So subscribe now and join the Zuzucorn family. The very first weapon I want to mention is the Gladius. The Gladius seems pretty forgotten in general, despite being a new addition in 1.4. It is a new short sword that drops from hoplites in the marble biome at a 2.5% chance. To be fair, that is pretty rare, which is probably why you don't see people going for it. Plus, it is a short sword, which honestly just makes it unfeasible in most cases. However, I quite like the Gladius. Every swing or use of the Gladius produces 3 quick stabs in rapid succession. Although this only works best at close ranges, the damage output from this weapon pre-hard mode is actually pretty decent. It's satisfying to use and pretty interesting in general. The Gladius is easily outshone by other swords like the Fiery Greatsword, the Enchanted Sword, or the Star Fury. And its low drop rate makes it nice to have when you find one, but not good enough for you to hunt for one. Overall, it's actually pretty nice, and definitely overlooked by most people who don't even know it exists. If you can, just give it a try if you find one. You might like it. Next on our list, we have the Combat Wrench, which is a new boomerang in 1.4. Have you ever seen the mechanic fight enemies? It might be just me, but I've always felt like her wrench was pretty overpowered, given that it returns to her at such a high speed. Well, in 1.4, we finally get to have a taste of what that feels like. The Combat Wrench is the mechanic's weapon, and she drops it at a 12.5% chance when she dies. If you're new to Terraria, you might be thinking, but how can we kill her? Well, all you need is a bucket of lava. It's unfair and mean to kill your precious NPCs for their drops, but hey, it's Terraria. Since when have we actually cared for them anyway? The Combat Wrench has decently high damage and range, and like I said, the appeal is really in the speed of the boomerang. This is how a boomerang usually flies. Even the Enchanted one is still pretty slow in general. However, the Combat Wrench is just much faster, which makes missing an enemy less punishing. Another great thing about the Combat Wrench is that it pierces multiple enemies as well, which is something most boomerangs can't do, except at their max range when turning back. This makes the Combat Wrench a solid pre-hard mode weapon, although it's pretty overlooked because most people don't even know that you can get one. If you're struggling in pre-hard mode early on, do consider getting this weapon after you've unlocked the mechanic. Although since you've beaten Skeletron, you probably have something better. However, it's still really satisfying to use, and sadly pretty overlooked by many Terrarians. The next weapon I want to bring up is the Thorn, a new hard mode mage weapon obtained during a blood moon. The Thorn drops from the Hemogoblin Shark at a 12.5% chance. That seems pretty high, which it is. But the main issue here is that you can only spawn one by fishing in a blood moon. In addition, it's pretty tough to take down early on in hard mode. It's fast, has high health, and flies and dashes around quite a lot. A simple box will keep you safe though, but it's still pretty beefy nonetheless. What I like about the Thorn is that it looks really cool. It summons Thorns from the ground to damage enemies, and its damage is pretty decent for early hard mode. The interesting thing about this magic weapon is that the Thorns spawn from blocks. This means that an enemy in an enclosed space can be hit as well, pretty rapidly and effortlessly. If there are no blocks nearby however, the Thorns spawn from the player. The use time of this weapon is fast and damage output is great. But as with every rapid hitting magic weapon, the mana cost is definitely an issue, which I'm guessing is why not a lot of people use it. This weapon has an interesting concept, but something like the Crystal Serpent, Sky Fracture, or Poison Staff might be better for consistent, controlled DPS against enemies. Nonetheless, I really like the Thorn. It feels so good to use and looks so cool. But alas, it's somewhat overlooked. Not that much, but still overlooked. Next on our list, we have the Zapinators, namely the Grey Zapinator and the Orange Zapinator. These are new weapons that aren't really new, and they are occasionally sold by the travelling merchant. The Grey Zapinator is for pre-hard mode and the orange one is the hard mode variant. But anyway, let's talk about how they work. The essence of these weapons is that they're designed to be broken. What's that supposed to mean, you might ask? Well, there are many different effects that the beams can experience. They're all listed in the wiki if you're curious, but the one I want to point out specifically is this, a 2% chance to multiply damage done by 10. Well, that's actually pretty broken. This 10-time damage increase can happen to the critical hits as well, meaning that once in a while you can really shave off a chunk of health. But well, when you're firing the Zapinators, you can't really expect what will happen. Sometimes the beam hits, sometimes it slows down, sometimes it just flies around randomly. Because of this inconsistency, it's quite a turn-off for most people to use, especially when they just want to deal consistent DPS. Many will just shrug off the Zapinators as a gimmick weapon, which it is, I won't deny that. But still, this weapon is actually pretty strong. It's really based off RNG, but if you become one with the RNG and embrace it, you'll realize it's actually pretty darn strong. So if your travelling merchant ever sells one, buy it. Just give it a shot, you might absolutely love it. Or you might hate it and never ever use it ever again, but hey, it's worth a try. Now for the most overlooked new weapon in the game. This is none other than the Zenith, a broken OP sword that absolutely no one knows about. Okay, fine. The most overlooked weapons are Jousting Lances. Jousting Lances are new hard mode weapons that have an interesting mechanic. They deal more damage the faster you are moving. When you're in a dash or running with flurry boots, using the lance stand will do much higher damage than using it stationary. Despite this, that's not to say that there aren't any problems with this weapon type, of course. Most of the time, when you're running at such high speeds, if you don't kill the enemy, you will just run through them and get hit. Once you get hit, you lose all your momentum and the lance just becomes poop. Unless you've got a cobalt shield, of course. But even if you don't experience knockback, you just run past the enemy anyway, and turning back means redoing the charge all over again. This weapon excels best when you have a dash, with the Shield of Cthulhu or the Master Ninja gear for example. You can dash, then use the weapon during your dash, which will deal pretty decent amounts of damage. There are some videos out there which really showcase how broken this subclass is, especially in certain circumstances. If I recall correctly, Mappy Gaming showed how to one-shot the Dungeon Guardian with the Shadow Jousting Lance, which was pretty insane to look at. Anyway, Jousting Lances are interesting weapons and have the potential to be pretty good damage dealers, although using them effectively probably needs some practice. Are they completely feasible? I can't really say they are. But they are pretty overlooked indeed. That might be attributed to the fact that there are only 3 in the game, but give these a try, you might like them. Well, that's 5 overlooked and forgotten new weapons in Terraria 1.4. If you think I missed the weapon that should be on this list, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon too, for more Terraria guides and coverage. This has been Zuzucorn Games. Have a nice day, and have a great week ahead. Bye bye!